And our next film is Meet the Beatles. And boy, is this an annoying experience, to the point that from now on, possibly for the rest of my life, I may have a negative physical reaction to hearing the word, well, it's the title word in the film.
Beatles?
Oh, Roger, don't. Now, see, now he knows he can control me, so he's going to start liking this picture.
Beatles.
Stop it, Roger. Honestly, I did not laugh or crack a smile once during this film. It was just agonizing how juvenile and how predictable the humor was. Giving Meet the Beatles a thumbs down is not just a movie review. It's a public service. You have been warned.
You're a real public servant today, Gene, and
Yeah.
I think you should get some kind of a medal, or maybe you could even get a gold watch and retire because you've performed such a great... Hey, there you are, yeah.
Ted, the man in the yellow hat, is voiced by Will Ferrell. George follows Ted to the city where Ted hopes to save the museum where he works. He likes a teacher named Maggie, voiced by Drew Barrymore. Even though they're based on the original drawings in the books, curiously enough, I think Ted and Maggie look a little bit like Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal. Drew Barrymore and Will Ferrell are just right, though, as the voices, going for the direct emotions and clear motives that are appropriate for kids. It's rare for a movie to actually be made for smaller kids, and Curious George does a good job of doing that. Hello?
Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal, you know, they're siblings, so that would bring a whole different subtext
Well,
to this animation, because it's a love story between
I can only report
these
what I
two.
see.
So
I
would beg to defer and say I don't think they look like the Gyllenhaals, but that's fine.
Steven Seagal gets in a barroom brawl in On Deadly Ground, an action thriller which he also directed, and this is a movie that is limited to two basic qualities. It's violent and it's sanctimonious. So at the end, after Seagal kills about 30 people and blows up the largest oil refinery in the world, what happens? Well, he's invited to speak to the Alaska State Legislature, and he talks about ecology. Now, I'm not sure, but I think blowing up refineries did not make you that popular in Alaska. Now, if you like to see lots of stuff blowed up real good, this would be a movie for you, but it doesn't pay to devote close attention to the plot of On Deadly Ground. Then there's Seagal's shameless final speech after the murders and the explosions and the fireballs, when he keeps a straight face while informing the grateful Alaskans that the oil industry has suppressed carburetors which would give you 100 miles to a gallon of gas, making the state's #1 industry unnecessary.
I will say this, that the speech at the end, as sanctimonious as it is more interesting than the actual fighting and the blowing up.
Well, but it's absurd.
It is absurd that he's saying it.
I mean, basically, he's telling people they should put sails on their cars.
Here's one thing that happened to me that was very funny. I'm sitting watching the picture. A guy comes across the aisle to me. He says, this is halfway through the picture. He says, do you think I would enjoy seeing The Getaway more than this? I said, yes. And he leaves the theater.
Goes to the next one. Okay.
Lance Crowther plays Pootie Tang in Pootie Tang, and I hope you think the name Pootie Tang is funny because everybody in Pootie Tang constantly says Pootie Tang. I did too. I thought, why can't you be funnier, Pootie Tang? Why are you in a full-length movie called Pootie Tang when you're nothing but a sketch character from the Chris Rock show? Pootie Tang. Rock shows up as the young Pootie Tang's father, so I guess that makes him Mr. Tang, or maybe Pootie Sr.
Don't you grab them peas without asking your mama, boy.
May I dine on the cherries, Mommy?
Yes, you may, Pootie Tang.
Now that's better. You got to have respect to get respect, Pootie Tang.
Like the Tim Meadows character, the Ladies' Man, Pootie is a 5-minute bit that simply doesn't have the heft to stretch into a full-length film. I seriously doubt that I'm gonna sign your pity on the runny kind Sipite is going to sweep the nation. But here's a catchphrase worth remembering. Pootie Tang stinks.
You know, I think it's a lot worse than you give it credit for. I think this is really hardly even a movie at all. I mean, if you take out the opening credits and the endless end credits with a music video under them, this movie is barely 70 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I noticed in those endless end credits that the end credits and the opening credits were directed by a different person than the person who directed the movie. And I'm going to propose to you, this movie was never finished.
Really?
That this movie does not feel like it's ready to be released. It feels like there are missing scenes, missing payoffs, missing introductions, and basically a missing movie. This is just like outtakes. These are like the deleted scenes, and they're holding the movie back from us.
We got the second disc of the DVD without getting the original.
Yes, it's not merely bad, it's incompetent.
If you do go to see Pootie Tang, go out and get some Junior Mints, come back, you won't have missed anything, then maybe go check on your car, call the kids, see how they're doing, and you won't have missed a thing at all.
That's why didn't you tell me that before the movie started? Okay. Clifford is like a movie from Mars. This is the kind of movie where you sit there simply stupefied. The cast contains some of my favorite actors, and yet nothing works. And I wonder if the central mistake might not have been the casting of Martin Short as the little boy. He looks so weird that there's never a moment when you can stop gawking at him long enough for the character to gather up any momentum. Now, we saw this movie in a theater with maybe 150 people. 2 people laughed once apiece. One of them was me, and I think the other one laughed because I have an infectious laugh. I found one gag in this movie. 148 other people found nothing.
Yeah, I was in the majority. I was in the majority. It is shocking, and I felt bad because I had taken a friend's children to the film.
Well, this is really
and I
a
said,
children's
well, at least,
picture.
I said,
Wow.
well, kids, at least you're going to remember who you saw the worst movie of your life with.
You took kids to see this. This is the kind of movie where after kids see this, they should see The Good Son to cheer themselves up.
Okay, that was about a killer, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, speaking of cinematic masterpieces, there are many things that you could call Paris Hilton: heiress, celebutante, and some other words that I'm too much of a gentleman to say out loud. But actress is probably not one of them. And movie seems like an equally inapt description of the hottie and the naughty. A horror, not a horror movie, just a horror, that was spared a straight-to-DVD release just to torment me. Yes, I take it personally. It's stupidly written, horrendously directed, and barely even acted at all. On a cinematic par with a public service documentary about gum disease or toenail fungus or chronic acne. Come to think of it, that's pretty much what this movie is. And I would rather suffer from all of those ailments at once than see even a frame of the hottie and the naughty again.
It is excruciatingly, painfully, horribly, terribly awful in ways that you just actually did a great job of describing, Tony.
Thank you.
Now,
we agree.
Nobody in this movie, I think, really should have a career in movies. None of the actors, nobody who is involved with it. I think you can go into any dinner theater in any small town in America, kidnap everybody off the stage and put them in a movie, and they'd be much better than this.
Well, and the writing and the direction. This is the kind of movie where the idea of wit is that you have a character talking on the phone and the camera pulls back and you see that he's sitting on the toilet.
Just horrible. And even though, it's apparently trying to give us some sort of message about, maybe the naughty can be a hottie. Nobody gets interested until she gets her makeover, so there really isn't anything about finding the inner person.
And it's sort of trying to do something that the Farrelly brothers did much better in Shallow Hal.
Except for Hal remains shallow throughout the movie.
Well,
and on top of everything else, Paris Hilton, the conceit that she's somehow this great beauty, she looks like a porn star after a really long weekend, especially in close-up.
Ouch. Now that's,
the title alone should keep people away.
A boy played by Elijah Wood gets fed up with his folks in that scene from North and decides that since they don't pay attention to him, he will divorce them and go looking for a new set of parents. And that's the setup for one of the most thoroughly hateful movies of recent years, a movie that makes me cringe even when I'm sitting here thinking about it. Look at this scene, for example, where young North is in court trying to dump his parents who are comatose with shock. Next stop, the Hawaiian Islands, where we get some amazingly tasteless dialogue about why these two people don't have children.
Hawaii is a lush and fertile land. In fact, there's only one barren area on all of our islands. Unfortunately, it's Mrs. Holt.
I hated this movie as much as any movie we've ever reviewed in the 19 years we've been doing this show. I hated it because of the premise, which seems shockingly cold-hearted, and because this premise is being suggested to kids as children's entertainment, and because everybody in the movie was vulgar and stupid, and because the jokes weren't funny, and because most of the characters were obnoxious, and because of the phony attempt to add a little pseudo-hip philosophy with a Bruce Willis character.
Well, I think you got to hold Rob Reiner's feet to the fire here. He's the guy in charge. He's saying that this is entertainment. It's deplorable. There isn't a gag that works. You couldn't write worse jokes if I told you to write worse jokes.
And, of course, you could always...
The ethnic stereotyping is appalling.
Yes.
It's embarrassing. You feel unclean as you're sitting there. It's junk. First-class junk.
And then the idea that kids might be lured in by television ads to see this movie about a little child who, throws away his parents and goes shopping for a new set. It's really...
Any subject could be done well. This is just trash, Roger.
Okay.